Thank you for spending another midweek moment with the Wisconsin Property Taxpayers. I'm Paul Rozeski. Today's Wednesday, March 11, 2026, and thanks for being here. Before we jump into some headlines, let's take a quick look at the week ahead. First, something cool in Wisconsin, and this weekend appears to be the unofficial, or maybe the official, start of maple syrup season, because there are constant festivals, events, and workshops over the next month. This weekend alone, you can tap into, pun intended, maple syrup events in Madison, Cazenovia, Owen, Fall Creek, and Cross Plains. A good reminder that agriculture isn't just cows, corn, and cranberries. If you're looking for a different way to satisfy your sweet tooth, Friday is National Riesling Day and National Pie Day for all you mathy people out there. So, however you enjoy life this weekend, please celebrate responsibly. For headlines this week, we are covering a lot of ground. We are doing some education, we have some population change, we have a little bit of voting, and we wrap it all up with a quote from POTUS number 4, often called the father of the Constitution. It's going to talk about spending. Surprise, surprise. There's a lot to get to, so let's jump into some news together. And this week we start with a valiant attempt to try and reduce the amount of misinformation, conspiracies, and inaccuracies about elections. The Wisconsin Elections Commission has launched something called the 2026 Election Information Hub. The idea is pretty straightforward. Instead of having voters bounce around trying to find different information, they've created a single hub where people can access everything in one place, and it will direct you where to find resources, from registering to vote to election statistics, educational videos on how elections work, even how to get voter rolls. My take on this? Pretty much a waste of effort and time, because we have Google or we have AI to ask questions to, and it will explain to us what to do before it gives us a link to do the thing. Obviously, the Wisconsin Elections Commission is a committee of boomers. We don't need a middleman website to take us to other websites, because that already exists. Your tax dollars, hard at work. In other news, the Institute for Reforming Government has also released a new online tool this week. It's designed to help voters. This one will help you better understand school referendums before they show up on the ballot. And this online tool is different because it has pulled together several key pieces of information from other places and brought it together in one searchable spot for an all-in-one place analysis of data. Information about school districts, things like how much additional spending a referendum would authorize, how much the district staffing has grown since 2020, and how districts used federal COVID relief funds when millions more dollars were dumped into the school's laps. It's a tool to help me decide whether I trust you school district, enough to make my annual tax increase even bigger than normal. You can look up your specific district, see what they did, then, as an informed taxpayer, you can be learning, and you can ask. You can decide for yourself, what has the district done, and do they deserve my trust to get more money? And spoiler alert, the numbers behind this are interesting. Let's look at Wisconsin overall. So, since 2020, Wisconsin public school enrollment has declined by more than 49,000 students statewide. During the same period, districts added 2,366 staff positions, which leads to an even more striking statistic, because enrollment fell while staffing grew. Taxpayers are now funding 8,878 additional adult employees in Wisconsin public schools compared to 2020. Spoiler alert, again, lots of operational referenda are happening because districts want to maintain those spending levels from when cash just fell in their lap. So, your way to try and give yourself transparency if you aren't getting it from the tax spenders at the district offices. In other news, we have an update from the Milwaukee public school system. We have talked about how the district just happened to realize they overspent their previous budget by $46 million. Well, the superintendent figured out a plan to cut $30 million by cutting 260 non-classroom positions. A number of those roles are unfilled positions, and they will largely be administrative and central office roles. And in spite of objections by the typical cast of lobbying groups and unions, the school board voted to approve the superintendent's plan. Another step in the right direction, although they still got a long way to go financially and academically. In other news, a report came out that in Wisconsin, the average spending per pupil, even after adjusting for inflation, is at its highest level since the year 2000. So yes, school funding is at the highest level it's been in the last quarter century right now. And hopefully, this can be a tool that will help rural districts keep up with teacher retention, which continues to have a higher turnover rate than teachers in urban districts. I think the urban districts are still a little bit ahead because they have that property tax density and they can pay their teachers higher wages. However, let's not lose track of what most of our members can agree with. Our schools are not overfunded, but there's a reasonable question about whether or not they're underfunded or simply just funded. And we are all in the same boat here. Everyone is stretching to make finances work and striving for excellence within our means. Hopefully these numbers help prove that the taxpayer is doing their part, but the well isn't bottomless. In other news, the legislature is still trying to get a deal done with Governor Tony Evers, who threw the baby out with the bathwater last month by rejecting the entire proposal of property tax cuts, income tax rebates, and flood disaster assistance, because although there was school funding and special education funding in the proposal what to do with our budget surplus, he said there needed to be more school funding, so it all goes in the garbage. Unfortunately, I will have to repeat myself. To all you lawmakers out there, I remind you to listen to your constituents and that the well isn't bottomless. In other news, since there has been concern about a projected decline in the population of Wisconsin, I wanted to share that not all news is bad news. In the fourth quarter of 2025, the Badger State ranked 10th in the nation for growth because of a net inflow of people moving into the state. It's a good reminder that tax policy matters, because a decent number of that gain came from people moving from Chicago up here to Wisconsin. They are near the bottom of tax climate in Illinois, and hopefully the baggage that they're bringing with them is just their suitcases. And finally, I give you a quote from POTUS number 4, the one and only James Madison, who said, "I cannot undertake to lay my finger on that article in the Constitution which granted a right to Congress for expending the money of their constituents without limitation." Have a great second half of your weekend. As always, thanks for listening. Wisconsin Property Taxpayers, Inc. is a nonpartisan membership organization consisting of thousands of small business, farm, and homeowner members in every maple syrup-loving corner of the state. Founded in 1985, the organization is committed to providing its members with up-to-date information, legislative advocacy, and exclusive cost-saving benefits. Find out how to join at WPTOnline.org/join.